The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Mario Abdo Benítez, President of the Republic of Paraguay. I request protocol to escort His Excellency. On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Mario Abdo Benítez, President of the Republic of Paraguay, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
Señor Presidente,
Mr. President, it is a great honor and privilege for me to address you all for the first time in my term as President of the Republic of Paraguay. Paraguay has always fully supported the United Nations. We will continue living up to our commitments made when we became a member of this organization. We shall shoulder our responsibility to live up to the universal principles of freedom, justice, national sovereignty, independence, and the integrity of states. My country has a very deeply seated belief in equality. This is based on the fact that we acknowledge human dignity. We reject fanaticism. We reject intolerance. We love peace. We have a society made up of different cultures. It is a bilingual society. We know how to cope with difficulties selflessly and responsibly. We demand integrity and we like to set good examples. These are civic values intrinsic to democracy. We are utterly delighted that the new president of this democratic representative body of the United Nations is a woman, moreover, a Latin American woman. So we would like to extend our congratulations and best wishes to the new incoming President of the General Assembly, Maria Fernanda Espinosa. We would also pay tribute to the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, who is doing excellent work leading this organization. We confirm we have absolute faith in him and we support his management. We would also like to pay tribute to the former Secretary General and the Nobel Peace Prize laureate Kofi Annan. He was an extraordinary leader. He was a humanist. He believed in peace. He sought to make this organization serve not only states, but also peoples. Your Excellencies, we live in a world that is increasingly interconnected and interdependent, a world that is changing faster and faster. And we must, together, tackle the global challenges. This is an unavoidable responsibility for the international community. The General Assembly must be made stronger, for it is the voice of the nations of the world. The Security Council must be reformed so that it becomes more democratic and inclusive, and can thus fully discharge its mandate of maintaining international peace and security for the present time and also for future generations. Paraguay calls for the inclusion of more developing countries in the membership of the Council so as to balance it. We also call for abolishing the veto. This no longer reflects the political realities of our age. The Republic of Paraguay has strongly supported reforms by the Secretary General to the pillars of development, peace and security, and management. We think the work done has been done wisely and timely. In order to take up the challenges of sustainable development, we need to have an organization that is effective, transparent, and able to provide support to countries as they move ahead implementing Agenda 2030, particularly those countries with special needs and special challenges, for example, landlocked developing countries. Millions of people suffer from poverty today. This is not because of shortages, rather it is because of unequal distribution of goods. It is our responsibility as leaders to stop seeing poverty as an economic indicator alone. We must see it as a human problem. To ignore the human aspect of the situation when we talk about poverty is, in our opinion, to go against the principles of this organization and of our democracies. Our government is strongly committed to continuing its social policies, to work more for human development and greater democratization, to work for access to education, health, and a decent job for all. This is our path for the future over the medium and long term, so that we can achieve greater social equity and collective prosperity. We pay special attention to young people who have enormous potential to help change Paraguay. We must take the opportunity of the demographic bonus to establish a solid foundation for a better future. And so we are moving to transform our educational policy so that children and young people can be brought into our educational system, and we are paying special attention to training for teachers and professors. We are going to establish and strengthen a system for social protection from birth to death. We have to protect our people from conception until old age. As for persons with disabilities, there are still many issues that we have to cope with. It is a key moment for the nation of Paraguay as we seek to promote the rights of persons with disabilities. We will try to make sure that public policies are cross-cutting so that we can fully implement them. We are also trying to make sure that women can be real engines for change in the country. We are promoting fairness, equality, empowering women. We strongly believe that with support from our mothers, our wives, and our daughters, we will be able to make Paraguay into a better country for everyone. Indigenous peoples are also given special attention by our government. Our state must now provide better living conditions for the indigenous peoples. It is a moral commitment that we have. Your Excellencies, the Republic of Paraguay is deeply concerned over the scourge of terrorism. We believe that violence can never be justified for any end whatsoever. We condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and we would like to say once again that combating terrorism and protecting human rights are not pitted one against the other. Rather, these are two complementary issues that must support each other. We continue to work tirelessly with allies to combat crime in all its forms. Our border areas cannot become spaces for criminal organizations to flourish. Just after I took over as president, we carried out an operation which had a very positive impact in our struggle against drug trafficking. It showed our strong political will, and we will never weaken in our struggle against drug trafficking. International drug traffickers have gotten used to believing that they are untouchable, and they seek to come closer to power. But I have promised my people, and today I promise the international community, we will not allow this to happen. We are going to continue struggling and working with all of you in order to abolish and eliminate these criminal networks. Your Excellencies, climate change is a global challenge without any doubt whatsoever. We have to make a crucial decision now. We can stop climate change, or we can deny it and continue worsening the situation. When the international community adopted the Paris Agreement in 2015, we decided to combat climate change together, without, of course, forgetting the historical responsibility of more developed nations in the area of producing greenhouse gases. Environmental responsibility is part of the strategic development vision of Paraguay. We generate more renewable energy per capita than any other country in the world, and we are also the major exporter of renewable energy. But at the same time, we have to broaden and expand our national and regional power system. Democracy has become stronger in many countries, but we must also pay attention to the demands of a citizenry that is impatient when it sees institutions that have been quite legitimately challenged because of corruption, inequality, and ineffectiveness in the face of real need. Our citizens have woken up now. They can be heard in our streets calling for us to put an end to corruption and impunity. We must listen to what they have to say. We cannot simply ignore their perfectly just demands. In my country, we understand that dialogue and reaching agreement are fundamental tools for carrying out a major reform of the judiciary. This is a priority for us. Legal certainty and effective justice system are fundamental pillars for a nation. Without justice, there is no order. Without order, there is chaos. And if there is chaos, there can be no social peace, there can be no development. I strongly believe in institutions and in the need to reform institutions and strengthen them so that they can meet the current and future needs of our societies. It is only if we have strong institutions and systems that we can ensure growth in our democracies. Paraguay is one of the most open economies in the world. Interaction with the world is of paramount importance for our development. Alliances are crucial for us as a way of improving worldwide integration. Our country is strongly committed to regional integration, and we hope to build it by respecting the sovereignty and independence of each of our Latin American and Caribbean peoples. However, we cannot fail to note that in our continent there are still dictatorships that steal the hopes and dreams and human rights of their own peoples. We express our solidarity with the peoples of Venezuela and Nicaragua, who are suffering from abuses of power. We strongly believe that our region, despite its differences, must work together to create wealth and to share prosperity for the benefit of our peoples. Fanaticism and ideologies that believe in superiority must be stopped and put an end to. Our goal must be to work for the well-being of all of our peoples. Mr. President, every country faces specific challenges as it moves towards sustainable development. But the international community has acknowledged that the most vulnerable countries do require special attention. They include landlocked developing countries whose geographical position means that they have special needs and special challenges. The needs and challenges arise primarily in the field of trade. Paraguay has been chairman of the group of landlocked developing countries for 2 years now and has been focusing on implementing the Vienna Programme of Action for Landlocked Developing Countries 2014 to 24, which is an integral part of the 2030 Agenda. We would urge states, particularly our trading partners and transit countries, to bear this in mind. We believe that adoption of the Arms Trade Treaty and the Nuclear Weapon Prohibition Treaty are of enormous importance in our move towards disarmament and non-proliferation. The Republic of Paraguay is committed to peacekeeping operations of the United Nations because we believe they help us to achieve the purposes and principles enshrined in the Charter. Paraguayan military and police personnel, properly trained before deployment, are today serving in several peacekeeping missions around the world. Paraguay respects international law. All of my government's decisions are based on the principles of international law. We faithfully comply with all the resolutions of the General Assembly and the Security Council of the United Nations. My country supports the legitimate request of Taiwan to be included in the United Nations system, and we believe that country could make a real contribution to its work. All of this on the basis of the principle of universality of the United Nations. Your Excellencies, this year we will be adopting 2 major global compacts, one on safe, orderly and regular migration, and the other the compact for refugees. Paraguay was actively involved in negotiating both documents, seeking to achieve agreements which would help those seeking refuge and those who are migrating, that would help countries and communities of origin, of transit, and those that host them. In 1958, Paraguay began the worldwide crusade for friendship, and friendship is something which is deeply felt in the hearts of our people. And then in May 2011, the General Assembly decided to support our initiative, and 30 July is now marked as the International Day of Friendship. May I invite the leaders of all the states members of the United Nations to encourage friendship. It is a lofty and valuable sentiment in the life of human beings. This year is the 70th anniversary of the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a milestone in the history of the human race. For the first time, formally, we acknowledge that all individuals have fundamental rights as human beings, without any distinction as to race, gender, nationality, religion, or anything else. Paraguay confirms once again its commitment to that declaration, and we believe the United Nations must continue playing a major role to ensure full respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms of all persons. Adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is a truly important commitment. It is the beginning of a process of restructuring which will change the paradigms of growth for present and future generations. The success of the new global agenda will depend on how committed states are and on international solidarity. And so we would appeal for the World Alliance to mobilize the resources needed to ensure full implementation. This would include the transfer of technology and of knowledge, capacity building, particularly towards developing countries. On 25 September 2015, Paraguay, demonstrating its commitment, submitted its first national voluntary report on progress in implementing 2030 agenda to the high-level political forum last July. Mr. Chairman, the international situation is politically uncertain and economically volatile. We need collective strategies. We need integrated strategies, and we need there to be a sense of shared responsibility. And so we have to take the decision. Either we let each state individually try to impose itself on others and get the best it can, or we work actively for stability and peace for all by strengthening multilateral tools and tools that can be used for cooperation. As an organization, the United Nations is constantly evolving. We must be unwavering in our work to strengthen it, to help it adapt and meet the challenges of the entire human race. We must, as I say, be unwavering in our commitment to do this. May God bless all of the nations. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Paraguay for the statement just made. May I request representatives to remain seated while we greet the Head of State.